Hi everyone, and welcome to the next video on lessons from Capablanca. Sorry for the wait, I've been a bit busy. This time we're going to look at planning a win during the middle game. Capablanca writes, I shall now give a few winning positions taken from my own games. I have selected those that I believe can be considered as types, i.e. positions that may easily occur again in a somewhat similar form. A knowledge of such positions is of great help. In fact, one cannot know too many. It often may help the player to find, with little effort, the right move, which he might not be able to find at all without such knowledge. The first example is the one before us here, and has the subtitle Attacking Without the Aid of Knights. It's black's move, and he's a knight and a pawn behind, so he must act quickly and try and win quickly, if at all. So take a look at the position here and see if you can find the best move. Stop the video if you want to think a bit more deeper or whatever. Okay, the best option for black here is Rook DG8, and in fact it's the only move he has to salvage the position. White can't take the rook or he'll be mated. Let's have a quick look. Oh sorry, he can't take the queen that's on pre. If queen takes c7, then rook takes g2 check, king h1, bishop d5, and it's a forced mate in 5, no matter how white plays. Fritz recommends the crazy queen takes c7 check, but only because it delays the mate for as long as possible. After king takes c7 and rook takes f7 check comes king d8, and there's nothing white can do to stop the mate, so he's forced only to delay with something like rook f8 check. And now rook takes f8, bishop h6 to stop the threats on the h file. Now rook h8, rook e1, and rook takes h6 is mate. So back to the original position. Rook dg8 is what Capablanca played, and his opponent played rook f2, which is a bad blunder. The best defense was queen f3. But even then it's at worst equal for black, despite the material imbalance. And so again, if you want to try and find the best move, stop the video now. Rook takes g2 is what Capablanca played, and it's the beginning of a powerful combination. And again his opponent blundered here and didn't find the correct defense, presumably not wanting to lose his queen by exchanging rooks. If rook takes g2, rook takes g2, king takes g2, and queen takes f6, and black should win fairly easily. But his opponent played king f1, and now it's a forced mate in 2 that Capablanca of course found, with bishop c4 check, which discovers the power of this queen, cutting off the king's escape route. And so after knight takes c4 comes rook g1, and it's mate. Okay, on to the next example. It's white to move, and once again, if you want to spot the winning move, then stop the video now. It's interesting to note in this position that Capablanca points out that black's last move was e3, planning to meet the move rook a5, threatening on a7, with queen f4 and a perpetual check. After king h1, queen f1 check, king h2, queen f4 check, king g1, queen f2 check, etc. But there's a much stronger threat in the position for white, and that is by playing instead in the starting position rook takes a7 check. Now the only move that black has is queen takes a7, and it's now a forced mate in 2 for white because rook takes a5 is what Capablanca played now, and there's no escape to first of all the mate threat on a7, and the queen is pinned, it can't move, so may as well take. But now rook takes a6 is a very nice mate. Okay, on to the next example. Capablanca writes, white has a beautiful position, but still he had better gain some material if he can before black consolidates his defensive position. So, what would you play? If you want time to think, then stop the video now. The strongest move by far is rook takes h6, and the game continued with g takes h6. If instead knight takes h6, now comes rook takes h6, g takes h6, bishop takes h6 check, king e7, queen g7 check, king e8, and queen takes a7, and white is easily winning. So, g takes f6 is how the game went. Now bishop takes h6 check, and white's easily winning in every continuation. King e7, now queen h7 check, forces king e8. Now queen takes g8 check, king d7, queen h7 check, queen e7, bishop f8, queen takes h7, rook takes h7 check, king e8, and rook takes a7. And here Capablanca's opponent unsurprisingly resigned, seeing the position was completely lost. And the ability to calculate the power of breaking through the opponent's defense with sacrifices in such a style is of course very important towards the consideration of combinations in chess. Take another look at the starting position here, and we can see that the rook on a7 is loose, which is providing a good tactical target in those variations as we saw. And the breakthrough sacrifice created another loose piece in the knight on g8. And this is why it was important to act quickly to begin with, because taking much longer could have given black the chance to consolidate, as Capablanca wrote, and with his pieces properly coordinated he could have both put up a much stronger fight and made sacrifices from Capablanca far less likely to succeed. Okay, on to the next example. In the last few examples we've looked at attacking with the rooks and bishops in combination with the queen. Now let's move on to a couple of examples using knights as a prominent piece for the attack. And here white is 2 pawns behind and must therefore try and make something of his attack here. Capablanca played knight f takes g7, which is a strong sacrifice that results at least in equality. His opponent blundered and played knight c5, which was clearly an error. Capablanca says so himself, because now white can take the rook on e8, as Capablanca did in the game and went on to win. A much better defense given by Capablanca was to accept the sacrifice, although it results in at least equality for white. Let's have a look. Knight takes g7, and now you see that this f pawn is gone. The defense of f6 is gone with it, so now comes knight f6 check, and king g6 is the only move, and now knight takes d7 gets the material back and gives white good attacking chances after f6, which is the best defensive move as recommended by Capablanca. Now comes e5, king f7, knight takes f6, rook e7, and knight e4. And from this position white should win in the long run. Material is equal, but white's position is superior. Okay, on to our last example for this video. And if you were taking notes during the mating patterns video, you should see the move here. Capablanca writes, the student should carefully examine this position, as the sacrifice of the bishop in similar situations is typical, and the chance for it is of frequent occurrence in actual play. The game continues, bishop takes h7 check, king takes h7, knight g5 check, and king g6, which is the best move. If instead king h6, now knight takes f7 check, will win the black queen, because it's forking the queen now, and if the rook takes, then queen takes queen. So king h6 excuse me, is no good. And if instead king g8, now comes queen h5, and white has a winning attack. Fritz gives an 1.5 pawns ahead for white, and considering he sacrificed a bishop, that's a big advantage. And the game continuation, in case you're interested, after king g6 was queen g4 with dangerous threats because of the potential for discovered check, like knight takes e6, etc. So black played f5, now queen g3 and king h6, and white went on to win in this game anyway. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it enjoyable and instructive. Please leave any comments or thoughts. Thanks very much.